starting, and I hope everyone outside do come in if you'd like, just so that you can be part of it. So, kia ora tātou, thank you so much for coming tonight. It's just lovely to see such a fantastic crowd at Poppies, and thank you to Alison for hosting us tonight. Thank you to Oliver, who's live streaming, and hopefully, unlike last year's live stream, we're not going to be hacked by mysterious genitalia shots. It was a kind of rather dramatic last year, but I think we've got it all under control this year. The person I want to start by thanking is, of course, Tracey Slaughter, the editor of this amazing book. Tracey has been, this is your third, and it's just really absolutely on fire. This is just such an incredible collection. The reviews that we're having already are just so full of praise. Just feel that there are so many submissions, and the way that Tracey makes her selection is just so skilled and so adroit, but you just feel that you're right in the heart of what's going on in New Zealand poetry with this collection. So I just want to thank you so much, and how you do it with teaching and everything else. We're not quite sure, but you do. You're a Wonder Woman. And I was just saying to Anna Jackson-Scott, who worked on the book with me and Emily Goldthorpe, I was saying the terrible thing is, Tracey, soon we're going to have to send you the email saying, what about the 2024 edition? Let's get us start again, but we'll give you a break beforehand. I just thought before we hear from Tracey and the readings tonight, I was reflecting on the legacy of the Poetry New Zealand Yearbook, which is now, of course, called Poetry Aotearoa Yearbook. Many of you will know that it was started in 1951 by Louis Johnson. That's a long, long, long time ago, and it's just incredible that this journal, which has had different iterations, but it's still going. That is an incredible legacy. And I did a little bit of reading about Louis Johnson today. I knew a little bit about him, but what I'd forgotten about was that in those days, and actually it's still very much the case, there was the Wellington literary scene and there was the Auckland literary scene. And in Auckland, it was kind of presided over by Alan Curnow. And Wellington and Auckland were kind of at war, which must have been exciting. He, in his editorship of the yearbook, was very, very encouraging of new writers, unknown writers, just as he was very happy to have the establishment in there. And I think that is still very true to the kaupapa of this collection. Every year, for many people, it's a launch pad, and for others, it's another chance to, you know, show their skill. He was the president of PEN. He was the Catherine Mansfield Fellow, and many of you will know that Creative New Zealand offers the Louis Johnson New Writers Award every year, so his name is still there as someone who encourages young writers. I also found out that in 1964, the New Zealand Literary Fund, which is now Creative New Zealand, withheld its funding from the yearbook on the grounds that 6 of the poems were obscene. I think if I could find that volume, look them up. We'll see what constituted obscene in those days. And I just wanted to close by reading you something that he wrote, which I think is just so apposite for tonight. Words are bricks you throw into every discussion, hoping to break a window, make a mark in the nervous system of identity. And I think that just seems like a great way to introduce you tonight, Tracey, and to listen to the reading. So welcome again, everyone. Thank you for coming. The books are for sale. Any of the poets here, either reading or not, grab them, get Tracey to sign one as a kind of souvenir of tonight. So thank you all again.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you all so much for being here. It's an absolute thrill to have such a live crowd packing a bookshop, the best bookshop in town. A poem is a space of encounter, a room of language that invites us to move our senses over its living surfaces, to brush our bodies against its echoes and pressures, visual, sculptural, sonic. A poem refuses to let us be shut down, locked out, cut off. It uses language to frame a gate to experience, calls our bodies to enter. Nothing human is off limits. No experience beyond its horizon. Everything we hold is welcome in a poem's meeting place of sound. To lift from Janet Frame, when you enter a poem, you are re-entering the human voice. The ribs it once hollowed, the throat it drew taut, the palate it rippled, the teeth it insisted against. It asks you to use your mouth to raise the words from its chest, grant them fresh harbour in yours. The poems in this remarkable issue will call you to enter scene after scene. A haven, a shithole, a murder scene, an edible garden, a site of pilgrimage, a meeting ground. It may be a space bathed in reverie or blooded with history, a shelter woven from ancestors' softnesses or nailed from stark forbidding boards, a shoreline that stretches in fathomless glittering or slides waste-laden to industrialised gulf, a cityscape glinting with electric galleries or towering with multi-storied poverties. But whatever direction it takes you, it urges you to cross whole, to witness the sheets and the piss and the spit and the sweat and the semen and fenua blood, to feel what the speaker and even their forebears knew, felt, suffered, lost, praised, decried, broke through, withstood, held sacred, loved and set light to. Yes, we knew that it was time to rename this Poetry Aotearoa. And for me, it's the perfect title for what happens in this book. It's a name strengthening, a name deepening, a name that acknowledges the legacy that we're building on, but is now a fuller sounding of that same encounter, that same call to the voicing and sharing of who we are at our kaleidoscopic but tightly interwoven core. So we are absolutely thrilled to be launching this tonight. I am bursting to hear our featured poet, Tyler Harry, and all the other assembled voices we've got. But just before I unleash all of those live, fresh voices on you, I just want to pay my thanks to Massey University Press, to Nicola, Anna, Emily and the rest of the team. When you said you don't know how I do it, it all hinges on the amazing teamwork that you've provided and your beautiful willingness to swoop in and rescue me at all sorts of occasions. Thank you to Waikato University on whose funding this whole thing hinges. Funding. I'm really hoping we don't get it pulled for obscenity in the future, but I'm almost tempted to push that bar now. But yeah, funding is what it all hinges on. So it's a real debt that we have to the university for giving us this opportunity. Thank you, obviously, to Oliver, who is the man when it comes to hooking up all the many magic cables that I would never even dream of touching. Thanks obviously to the best bookshop in town, run by Alison. Hopefully you're all not only buying Afterburn, the Poetry Yearbook, but you're stocking up on all the other magical beasts she's got stashed away. I spent like $80 before I'd even drew breath. But most of all, of course, thank you to the contributors. This might have my hands on it, but it exists because of you and because of your audacity and vision and ferocity and the bravery with which you part with your work, you share it with us. It's an absolute honour, year in, year out, to see the flood of your astonishing voices that just come across my desk. If you're one of those people who didn't quite make it, do not let that faze you. Keep on writing. Year after year I see voices that are just on the verge and they're so ready to make that mark. So don't be deterred, and if you're one of those people out there who have never taken the step of submitting, please make this your year. July 31st is the deadline each year, and we live and breathe for those new voices that take us by storm, as well as putting those new voices alongside the incredible legacy of established voices that we've got in this country as well. Speaking of taking things by storm, this is my cue to introduce the amazing poet who we featured this year, Tyler Harry Bidwar. Tyler is still dwelling over in the Bay of Plenty, I think. Yeah. But once upon a time she was here amongst us in the Waikato at university, so some of you may remember her from bygone days. Essentially, her voice was roaring and ready to go from her first workshop. She had the audience stilled and awestruck from day one, and I've seen her go from strength to strength since then. So I'm really, really thrilled to introduce Tyler Harry Bidwar.
Hi, I'd like to just take a moment to say thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this, especially considering how many writers were already a part of it. I think last year, the yearbook, it was amazing just to be included in that. To be a feature poet for this year is just so humbling. It's so nice. So thank you so much for thinking of me, and thank you so much for meeting me, Nicola. It was just absolutely lovely, and thank you for your hard work. It's so hard to have poetry as your great love when it comes to literature, but you're doing so much hard work when it comes to giving us these opportunities. Thank you so much. Thank you. My project, I don't know if you had an opportunity to read it, it's called Ouroboros, and it is literally just, for the most part, about the ebbs and flows of life. I'm not sure if I was actually able to capture that accurately in as many poems as what's in there. I hope so. I hope it's a bit of a story and a journey of sorts. I mean, it's pretty much just, it's about addiction and love and being mature before your time, just enough to be able to reflect on these things, hopefully with enough value where hopefully 5 years, 10 years from now, I'll be able to have enough of a grasp as to who I was as a young adult, which I think is about so many of us who wind up being a part of reading and writing. There's a side to it that is definitely about the knowledge that you'll be constantly reflecting on the things that you're going through now with much deeper awareness of things that for the most part you can only really touch on with what you've been imparted with your level of maturity for now. Thank you so much for allowing me a platform to be able to print these things. So with that in mind, I'll just read a few poems for you. Three?
4 is yours, my friend.
4? Okay, alright. Well, the first one is the first poem of the collection within a collection called Teeth. 1. There has to be a tooth somewhere, inside the words a sharpness. If I can't love you without hurting you, would I live in you like a wound? Something you tend under the bandage of your rib that throbs. The part of romance that is the longest dusk enthroned, pain infinite as moonlight, systems amassed of breaking as all supernovas, a cloister of many tiny deaths. 2. Hope like a fever, an unreasonable illness, incurable. I am back to hiding it inside my skeleton again, inventing crooks for these small, foolish allowances. 3. Breaking, perhaps the most beautiful word. Breaking, to break, to be broken. His mouth broke against mine the value of fire, his hands break against my hands, the injury and cure of what skin amounts, the heart without a name. And the heart, rapture, breaking. This, the first house and coffin of grief, of love, of God. And that's 2. Second, cannibal love song. 1. His eyes were on the skeeth, how much it was shaped like a mouth, kissing weak goodnight as though 1,000 half-sleeping orphans. That is the way to end things, with the red blood of a kiss. 2. Dark compliments. You have used Eros's arrows as toothpicks, snapped their bones inside your jaw, the full taste of the organ alive on your tongue like sap. You sleep the sunlight out of the skin, one weeping bloodstain of dark. Fishbowl of a world, heaven has been sacked, apple trees on fire, punctured fruit crimson as curdled veins. You must imagine paradise as a matchlit rose, perfection wilting into gold. Immolation that is nearly a swoon, something unbearable. You have fed me the awful words, many syllabic murders. There is always, there is forever, and there is never, never, never the knife in my hand and chest. 3. Scar tissue, the way it shines, the frozen lake of the skin, little moon hidden in you. 4. The black sweatshirt that contains the shiver, sweat-laden, modern life. I am angry, bleeding eternity out of you. The technologies you made me use to clog the flood. Watch my mouth around plastic, chirping fish. I am addicted to my own murderer. So much him I have injected into my skin, a promise to his machine. 5. But when I eat your heart, you will hate me. But when I eat your heart bloody, and the valve explodes into my mouth as though it were a small and fragile star, cannibal love song, you will hate me. 6. 1. There is an aftertaste, something in your mind that lingers like a stain. Substantial, the agony you've tolerated into desire, you will search for it again all your life. 2. How glorious a soul. Tender preciousness, terrible secret I protect between the rib and the wool, the cotton, the silk. In nakedness I hide you in pale, the gentle humiliations of a body. Whatever womanly line and curse there is, the claw inside the breast, I wonder how you would burn. 3. Cruelty is a stem, a creature that can flower. I don't know where you come from until you crawl into my bed with a new mask, a new skin slick with story. The great shapeshift. Even you adore most where you aren't found. Our fondest joke, alien thing, intruder. Alone at last you would calcify. 4. Because. This explanation, this causation, I want to rip you, the ocean, apart with it. I want it to be the only purpose, reason for the love make, the nether wound it leaves behind. 7. Yes, fall head first into hurt. That is the way I like you, strong inside the injury. It is the only manner of knowing you are human, of the first wellspring. We are born weeping. Pain is our first language, the meeting place. Amputate yourself from this and you're already dead. You feed on me, feeding on you, this current of sickness and cure that sprouts bright and dreadful as tears, even stars collapse. 8. To hands, touches prayer. To mouth, then, speeches later to God, song 1,000 doves. We are transparent animals, primitive. Everywhere we architect whispers to who we are. The absence of ourselves is madness, its remedy creation. I remake the tower, the tiny prison cell, the university dormitory. I reshape it all into myself, even you. The lies we are in confessing we don't want it all beautiful, the agonizing kind of perfect. The lies we are lost in our own eyes, holds only the pretty artifact mends, flawless and without a soul. Be a mannequin with me, marble and cold. 9. Banknote of a life, though the price is steep. Fearful economy, this expensive flesh. I watch my tear ducts produce a waterfall. My diamonds swear this is how the man does make me pay. 10. Time is a ruin, though I want it all regurgitated neatly inside my hands, but I want it all saturated inside my molars, but I want it all syrup inside my guts, but I want it all wallowed and decayed around my fingers, but I want it all bleeding as I bleed, dying when I die. In this, the both of us is selfish, the sickness, the thirst of thirsts. Okay. This is called It Is Midnight and I Have Horns. It's a smaller one. Cardiac chamber, awful consummate oyster shell and fist of the chest, the ever organ, red lake with all its drowning, baptized in its yolk, good heart I am a valve, a million working veins. Though all this time is an accumulation of denials, no, I'm not this wretched bloodlet, these pines, claret longing in the throat, the hands, no, I'm not the standing coffin, the cadaver animate, no, I'm not the heart attack of the gaze, burst artery of tears, the unspeakable clot between two bodies. And just to end things, I'll end it with darling. 1. The feeling you have left with God, your invention of him, always the wrath, the drinking, the belt whip of your father. We were always divided by 2 crosses. There in the sanctuary where you have assembled court, paranoid and in search of lies, your cleansing is a punishment, a punishment. Being near you is such a heaven, it can't exist until we die. 2. How did I get here? This, the longest post in a series of incredulous days, the end of a beaten path veered into by accident. Answerless, there is only that I was normal once, fell through the void in my sleep, caught the strange in the hook of my smile. I have soared into the mirror since, played into my cheeks like a violin. Did you know the body is comprised of strings? 3. The empty sensation you have nursed. You love this. Your eyes, half moons, drowsed in guilt and the agony, lacerated into yourself. Deep in love, the romance of regret that strips you of being a whole man. Lets you flounce a while, waif-like and vulnerable, victim to your own longing, stark as summertime. You shine inside your pain, bright as stars. I watch you drink into yourself, startled with it. 4. You're blind, greater than any faith, any breast or thigh that is your roadmap into hell. Somehow I think this is the sternest commitment in your blood, your sweat, where you are all fluid, bartering. 5. I hate it when he calls me darling. The south is there certainly, but more the crocodile than the willow. How do you endear yourself to something so cold, adept to such a heat? The mistrust sits in the voice, hisses along the wheat field of the tongue into the air. 6. Have no time for the stupidity that harms, though I like to laugh, and what silliness it is, those clapping lungs, so much nothing. The light, I think it injures monsters, the sound, the amulet of a mouth, I think it purges rooms. 7. The compelling aspect of storms. Violence as only violence is, and so it cleanses. There is no villain in it. Hurt is only hurt, is only chaos, is only the wild teardrop of life. You are only hating a void, the earth without conscience. 8. Go away. 9. They come to you with secrets, these protective women, aware of another man's sanctity. They come to you all teeth, loathing that is its own confession. The first women speak. A creature we learned in school, hiding from men ourselves into the handkerchief of something closer to a sister. Though I speak your language, woman, here inside its jaws the small abusers of a heart, unflattering, unbelonging and raw. 10. When we are trapped on a rowboat, one snarl snapped in two, stabbing the quiet of your eyes, and whatever Cupid sung before singed into the gasoline of our breath, crisp as fresh matches. Such a distance, almost familial, we will set the lake on fire. 11. Such day, the broken fork of light through the wrists of greyest foams, such wind, ultimate conductor, restless and causeless dance, such skin, all of us the red kiss of a silent church, a cascading bruise of living, a mount upon each other, such sound, the rose petals of mouths and echoed prayer of lungs, shaped and contained as pink leaves. Are you a flower, such fire, first flesh eater, its enormous appetite of forgiving, and bright, 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 the fingerprint of God, such water, everything punctured that bleeds, saps, melts, everything that drains itself into the tears of heaven, too divine for temple. I will pray for you, such heart, rhythmic inflation in the wolf's throat that is the small star's drum, the moon song, the ballad of all beasts. 12. Though here's still the scratch, unhealed matter between the thin scab of the chest. It splits awake the lid of a jewelry box, copper wire, all of the machines led in song, the fluttering mechanical wing that crying is, subdued the airy pivot of a dull-painted ballerina inside, skin drilled between the ribs as any knife. 13. Fury, youth, I want all the legency. I want the audacity of golden eras locked inside the silicone of my talons, eyes of two fly traps caught the face of whatever long promise there was to age. I want to sound like all the dreams dressed in white, flaxen sunrises in the fear of barricaded libraries, set alight in winter, long Rome. I want to be a nightmare, the seed of many pointed fingers in a square when asked, whose fault is this? I want you to revolve around me as though I am the sun. 14. I am arrogant, thief of time. I take words back and snuff them into expense as though it were a vault. This, the humble word of only one person, an opportune joke from a pew. There is nothing of multitudes about it, nothing of a warning, a decree. There is nothing of man's alchemy. That is one voice shattered into mass, returned in particles as everything made of sky and light. All this universe that is collapse and resurgence, the condense of a long ceremony of frivolous atoms. Everything is the function of breath. Everything is the envelopment of stars dying alive, dying alive. We explode into each other. Thank you so much. I'll hand it over to you, Tracey.
So now we have a sampling of other voices from the collection, starting with Isa May Ramapiri.
Like here? Yeah, that's good. Kia ora koutou, ko e Saranapiri tōku ingoa. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote for a friend because they were coming around and I hadn't seen them in a while, and I was like, oh, I need to give them something. So I just typed a poem up, and this is that poem. And I haven't read it in public before, so it's going to be interesting. It's called At Hine, They Never Were Done Up Like That, after Cassandra Barnett's Space Raki. Henimo or Henimoana, what texted nightmare, what far-flung star had ear pulled or pulled into ear ocean, ear want to undone, pulled apart by tangata, ear wants to be or made into the past tense, ear creates large gaps between ear and ear X's, make tuku lo, panel out of the memories of ear bodies, Henimo takes all ear love and places it in a box ear is saving from / for the world, the world, the world, the word. Ear mukupuna, a secret in the back of frame. Does Hinimo have access to the dark waters, the ferryman waters? Oh, river drift ear, a long time coming, undone. Would ear sunbake a tattoo into ear shoulder, while waiting to see plus tangata babbler ear remembers the touch of curious pop up in ear mind, the roro hine ngaro ear rere pull down star and make glow in under ear wishes to swallow tangata babbler whole. Would that make ear complete again? Ear's not sure. The babbler tangata ear loved with ear whole heart unzipped like windra, and ear extracted all ear could before, like the river, like the awa moving on, dragging the ocean behind. Ear love drag, ear pulls on atito, ear will not be pinned to this. Ya.
For having me. This is a super happy poem about growing up in a small town. It's not. Sorry about that. Not everything I write is miserable, I promise. A slight warning that this probably would have made that obscene list. I'm guessing. So if that's if you're sensitive to that, yeah, I've said it. In this town, we wear gumboot bikinis, holding fast to blocked out quads racing hills. Blackbirds fall from the sky to iced up tents in -4, whispered voices, filmy cold and bourbon heavy, cinder block empties. The bouncer lets us in 'cause they're our friends, cousins, sisters, boyfriends, uncle twice removed, and he likes our lips. We smoke out the toilets and cry not to cough, get fucked up, slip hot into one more drink, hands that feel like meaning, bar eyes whiskeyed up and honest to the moment, snuffed out in shoddy bathroom stalls, lockless mirrored lights. We wear our years in glittered minis for lingering eyes, their blood-dried worms, hungry in the base. There are no lesbians, but we are all bi-curious. Swapping bottle-spun saliva. Boys step out for boys, but we all stay for girls. Take the full time. It isn't cheating. It gets our boyfriends hard. But we learned kissing doesn't have to taste like cold pie and cigarettes. Could be lip roll suck between the sheets and down past Beach Boy racer amps. We wear gold-cheeked luck charms, slapped down halls, filtered gray, the long leg rafters pumped, looped that shimmy-shimmy-ya, and raspberry creatine shot liver pools, those skip-step heel stairs, tat-up electro smiles, wheeled daggered flesh to raise-voiced car doors, roundabout rise, concrete pupils and bare-skinned street lamps, record scratch, jump, again. We're peppermint strawberry stick pulled dollar shop lip gloss, and my chem sheds. At the end of the night, we fall down in giggles and don'ts. No one listens, pulsed up and black lit, so nobody knows who to hate the next day when she says she was raped. We circle roads for that sense of moving. Sip cooking wine in backseat Corollas, get high on chamomile thyme and ocean salts. Our boyfriends suck us to marrow and cry starfish. We learn to choke, moan our hips. We learn to stay. Thank you.
Chris Holdaway, very high.
A lot more people in here than I realized. Okay, my in frame? Yes, okay. This is a poem about, it's called Time Crystals and Bullshit Jobs, which I guess is about working 9 to 5 in an observable universe that's 93 billion light years across. A world without science fiction vanishes thus. The most meaningful rules of smoke yield dignity and disappearance. Fried social values, tabloid debts, contrived particles, perpetual motion of resentment, all hell in an accurate description. It stands to reason that crystalline structures exist in time as well as space, the fall in variance between gainful simulation and being driven to a new face of matter. This the meat of economic theory, your waking hours conceived of the same equations governing stars' original symmetry. In this year of the working week, does not the diamond stand for all our doctrines and machines? Where clocks fail, we have the most genuine object, the endless charge of meaninglessness that comes with destructive amounts of time. In the ballpark of never, I made up the profit motive as a joke that got out of hands and pockets, as if a headline or mathematical proof waiting beyond the veil for the right morality tales, for in administration lies the mystery. Paper pushing cosmology, all-night public relations, inefficiency, your most sacred duty when faced with the technicality of everyone else. A new angle on nature, where reflection has nothing to do with a clear picture, electromagnetic fields forever. This, all as a battery runs out. We have every reason to believe in the abundance of spiritual damage, the resurrection of time and the jewel of industry, burning a whole new category of temperature. For nothing but equality lies at the very end of everything. Thanks.
Yeah, just over the page on, I think, a couple of pages at least, poem 113. 6 sounds like sex in a Kiwi accent. This poem is 6 feet under my high school. It is reserved its spot next to the few in my year who killed themselves. It is all tied up in pretty school pride colours of black and blood. This poem is my high school diploma. This poem is 6 feet under football studs. Studs that track over social sport soil. Studs who track who scores the most. Studs that see the loose and ready are turned and dirty, easy to get 6 in deep, or silver-tongued cleats getting 6 goals in on light soil skin. This poem is 6 feet under the breeding grounds, and the man-up motto, Sapius fortunum fingit sibi, which roughly translates to sink or swim, and we'll take credit for the victors, but it's in Latin, so be inspired, I guess. This poem is 6 feet under an emotional haka video with 3 million views. Look, mate, your name is famous. It's buried under the assembly where we mourned a kid named Jared, who was year 12, apparently, buried under the best friend and mother who requested nothing be said. So they changed your name and year so they can show how much they care about you, Jared. This poem is 6 feet under the curious thought of why no one else would want to be a girl, just to see what it's like, just to be delicate, just to know how the studs feel on soft soil skin. But this poem isn't educated enough to tell you why. This poem is a eulogy written in the fine print of your enrolment. This poem is etched into your tombstone in the early graveyard plot. This poem is the worst years of your life that you wish you could relive. This poem is casually homophobic for a laugh. This poem works out and fucks. This poem knows how to throw a punch. This poem has vodka in its drink bottle. This poem has a rape allegation. This poem cannot be unlearned or retrieved, retried, recalled, relocated, repeated, revived. This poem is buried 6 feet under tear ducts. This poem is coming out in an open casket.
So, I just have to say, when I sat down to write this poem, I sat down, I was like, I have no inspiration, I don't know what I'm going to write, and I have some poems due in workshop next week, and I came across Tracey's anthology, one of them, and I read She Is Currently Living, and after finishing that poem, I just had to write something as a response. I was just moved, and I think that really is the power of poetry. Someone can reach right through and touch you and be there for you in that moment and just really be there with you. So this is She Is a Current of the Dying. She is currently dying between violets and cigarette ash, in the summer humidity of cooing mothers. She is currently dying between lunchbox talks and coriander. She is currently dying with her face plastered in Lemire. She walks dying between rouge lipstick and blistering waistlines. She walks dying between pavement penny dreadfuls on show at Café Lafayette and the Spoodles Twirl. In between cobble streets pegged by Louis Vuittons. She walks dying with a 6-month pregnant belly swollen, with gas trapped in her intestinal tract. She lies dying between little girls screaming at their brothers for cutting their Barbie's plastic hair, dogs barking, weeds gnawing pavements, the chase reruns. She lies dying. She lies dying. She died looking at her bookshelf while I grabbed her a glass of water she didn't need.
Liam's not here tonight, so I'm reading a long poem. Just that's new as well, so I hadn't read it out. And so hopefully I don't fuck up anything. It wasn't meant to be funny, but alright. He rolled the ball that never stops, the perpetual sop. Hang on. That winds us up. I hear the tick-tock brake drop its load springs. The intricate mess a body makes are rippers of linen, a gun to the head of physics in their finished, digested, mixed in the underlayers of their darkness and bro. We were close, and you look me up like you don't know me, remember me. How it ends is not important, it never ends, and you think it does, and there's no beginning, only the middle, so if the picture's lost and you're lost, unavailable, sucking your finger. It's the mind and the body's elsewhere, at the post shop, standing on the corner, at home, the crime scene, polishing the steak knife, straightening the sheet, scrubbing the wine stain off the carpet. I'm dry 2 days, slip into idiocy like sleep dream that I knew crossed the street for no reason, dodge buses, air traffic, pedestrians, fail to make contact. Cut the party line, the atmosphere, ignore leafleteers. I'm going home, uninterested in tears, crack on the pavement, scavengers, shit kickers. When I live on the 9th floor, I live. When I'm on the 9th floor, I live. I can do anything, quick, I can sing, make you feel like I'm behind you, over the moon, I can reach you. I can teach you, be gentle, thumb your shoulders when you're mad, when you talk with your mouth full in the bathroom, when you're fried on the bed with the nets wide open. All of this is possible, a blast of the mindscapes we cultivate. I'm still dreaming, not listening, not hearing, la la. I said I'd stop, but kept going, rolling over, not dead, the same ground but different. Have you noticed the infinite variation, the sly nuance of word, facials, blades of grass, leaves on their stems, how they resemble when it's winter, desiccated bodies. I'm grafted to myself and tell you about it in electronic letters. Bodies spill, swarms, systems so good, majority rule, dictatorship, the end of the neoliberal emporium, save us, Jesus, America. I shake the withered fig tree, but nothing, no future but this, strung between two twigs, the instant miracle. God loves the suicides as much as us for their courage, their weakness. God loves the unblessed, the haters for their suffering, loves them indiscriminately without blinking. God loves those who help themselves like there was no such thing as possessions. God loves all the trees and all the animals. God loves but can't do anything for me. I love them for that, their impotence, their humanity. For the dead there's nothing but regret, but what's that? It's only curiosity that makes me think about jumping off the bridge to see what happens next, what I think when I hit the water. That's all it is, I tell you, I am joyful, uplifted. I connect, I'm part of the organic cosmic furniture of things. I fit winged like birds flit, flesh and the palpitations of a corporal soil, renaissance red, white and blue, blood, oranges and emerald. Give me peaches, conical clusters, wasp nests, the fruits at the end of summer, joyous flies at the first grapes of the dying year. This is no time to think of death, to meditate our beginnings and ends, but to hold the inordinate weight of sunlight, the intermittent click of consciousness, cicadas on the dry bark. At night the crickets are thinking. Across the Arabian desert saw the confluence of two rivers, serpents, Isis, black beetles, water carriers. Here is where I reckon the first man exited Africa, guardedly killed in, were disassembled in. There was no such thing as happiness, doubt, emotional insecurity. Then lunch was served and the monotony broken. When I got to the heart of Western Christianity, I was done, dissatisfied, had I come for nothing. But the Roman taxi driver, may his jewels roast in the eternal pit, sinking Cocytus. That unscrupulous, heartless bastard charged high prices. Actually, that time my cousin picked me up from the airport, drove us through the scorched roads of Latium until we reached the taciturn Sabine countryside, our inclusive paradise of rock-high woodlands. Francis lived here, conferred with birds. Beasts of the fields, I lived here, dream of it, wolves of your childhood, the crows, owls that signify death, someone close, a lamb perhaps, but still I'm terrified, torn. Here again, I trudge through the snow in my old boots with a gun that won't shoot straight. So.
Thank you, Tracey, for the opportunity to read tonight. This poem, Your Stars for April, is an ekphrasis of a Cindy Sherman untitled film still. And I won't describe the photograph to you, but the poem is a poet's version of what you kind of imagine Cindy Sherman might have been thinking about when she set up the scene that she took the photograph for. So, your stars for April. You can find yourself in the wrong place unexpectedly, your coat thrown across a bed and no easy way to leave. You can fix a slight smile on your face and remain quite still while a run works its way up your leg from the hole where your foot turned as you started, mouth a little dry, up the steps to the front door. If you were going to start again, it would not be in this white nylon pin-tucked blouse, or following an afternoon reading magazines in your underwear with big rollers in your hair, which you had to spray into place with Aquanet before pulling on a girdle and a skirt that is a little too tight. You'd wear a slinky low-cut dress, and you'd go straight up to him the minute you walked into the room. You wouldn't be watching from the couch under the pretty lamp, legs crossed slant, nursing a tumbler of warm Bacardi and Coke, not smoking, not talking, not looking for trouble. Thank you.
Abigail Marshall is right over there.
This is a relatively elderly poem, so thank you for giving it a home to retire to. I don't need to know anything about this except that my mum is still alive, but the cat is dead. The year we untucked a lump from mum's throat, a cat with thumbs crept out from the hydrangeas in the garden. She laughed because she'd never seen a prettier rat with bigger paws. That spring we levered pine needles from the deck slats with our fingernails. Mum collected gravel from the path into her knees, coaxed the cat out with coleslaw containers of cold milk. So Dad bought a pet bowl on the sly, and Mum wore a blue gown into theatre, helped the doctor tell her it had been the bad kind of a growth. She came back with a silver thread, which hung out both ends of her neck, and lay still and let the cups of tea collect fur islands. Watched the cat blow in and teeter on the pillows. We'll call him Nimbus, she told us. He's a nervous cloud that might thunder any second. If doors swung shut, he bolted. There was a brick to keep the bedroom open to the veranda, till some visitors walked in and saw stiff hankies on the floor. They brought us buckets of pumpkin soup, which grew skin in the microwave, but that we shoveled into mugs, held on our laps as duvet picnics swallowed the afternoons. Mum listened with her eyes closed, played Lake Wobegon over the radio. Nimbus put his head into the cup on the bed left beside her, dyed his eyebrows orange, curled his paws, scooped soup, trimmed purrs. So that's what you're good for, she laughed, and we laughed, and she held her neck together with 2 fingers on her pulse.
And last in the lineup, but not least at all, Michael Stevens.
Kia ora. It's nice to hear poets reading in a bookshop. It's been a long time for me. This is an instalment from a sort of serial poem that I started writing. It's called Strains, and it's not strains of respiratory viruses, it's strains of cannabis. So I was trying to write a whakapapa of cannabis in the referendum year, and we all know how that referendum went. But the poem goes on. So this instalment is called Citron Snacks for Claude and Badger. Claude's the grower and Badger's the breeder of this strain, if you need to know any more information about that. Yeah. So, arid brown paddocks fringed with manuka rolled down to where the Hokianga harbours protean waters vacillated hourly between ultramarine and purple. January sweltered to hallucination. In a deck chair I bombed away the afternoons, hazing out over the pages of a gothic novel set in an orchard near Alabama. When I first arrived there in Omapiri, I befriended a local at the lookout. He had the countenance of a great navigator, Melanesian eyes scanning the ocean for lost messages, the wake of ghost waka. When he smoked a lump of your citron snacks through a chipped black porcelain pipe, the cab of his Hilux filled with cookie funk, the splash of lemon furniture cleaner. His koha back was a bottle of Steinlager, cold and luminous as a piece of pounamu. Thank you.
So that's just a taste of what's awaiting for you all in Afterburn. Please buy a copy if you haven't already. Spread the word. And like I say, think about sending us your own work for the next issue. Thank you so much for packing this beautiful shop with your beautiful selves, and for those amazing readings. It's always an absolute honour to hear your voices live. Yes, just thanks all round, and I hope to see you again next year with another amazing crop.